Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. Let me start by wishing all the women in the world, my wife Nishat, my daughters Aisha, Layla and Hannah, for being there on this wonderful day, International Women's Day. And I'm deeply grateful to all my female friends, my wife and my daughters, and my mother, who I will also take this opportunity to remember today. I went to hear President Obama speak at Saharan Stadium, I think it was in 2015, July 2015, and he said then, imagine you have a team and you don't let half the team play. I said on NTV a while ago, if you haven't got women participating in the economy, it's like fighting with one hand tied behind your back. I like this comic that Jean Park posted. I got this. It's called Girl Power. This is a photograph of my daughter, Aisha, my eldest daughter, many years ago, getting up on her water skis in Lamu. This photograph, I think, is from September 2012, is of my daughter Layla on the top of Mount Kenya. And that sort of covers my International Women's Day, but also she's on top of Mount Kenya. And then I saw this of somebody atop Taita Taveta County in Kenya. Doom Singh, who I follow on social media, says this is Likoni Channel for many years. I did not live too far from there. Mario Vargas Llosa, who's one of my favorite writers, has written a new book, The Call of the Tribe. I think that should be very interesting to read. I came across this from Julia Galef on social media. If someone told me I hear voices coming from my household fan, I'd have been 99% sure they were hallucinating or something like that. Turns out this is a real phenomenon. Metal objects can sometimes pick up faint radio signals. Okay, I'm actually scared right now. This part happened yesterday. The power went out, like not just mine, but for our whole block. And it's just me in the house. Now you would think that I would be freaking out, but no, I was perfectly fine, just using my data to browse Reddit. Power comes on an hour later, no big deal. And this happened like 15 minutes ago. Power surges, doesn't go out, everything just goes off. So I'm running around, turning my stuff back on. When I get to my fans, now even though it is winter, my apartment gets really warm, so we have these 3 tower fans. I turn the first 2 back on, and as I'm walking up to the third, there are voices coming from it, like not oogly boogly or Houses Wanted voices, but it sounded like a talk show, like you could hear people talking. Mind you, all of this is coming from my unpowered fan. Did I mention that? The fan was plugged in, but I never pressed the power button. And there are people and sometimes music coming from it. And that took me back to Don DeLillo, the voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pigeon, is a melange of repartee, laughter and song, with a quality of purest to sweetest sadness. The specialist is monitoring data on his mission console when a voice breaks in, a voice that carried with it a strange, an unspecifiable poignancy. Let's move on to politics. The US Holocaust Museum has revoked its award to Aung San Suu Kyi. Take you back to Geldorf. Aung San Suu Kyi took the greatest prize humans can give to another, and then becomes one of the great ethnic cleansers on the planet. The British press is brought to you today by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This was from Peter Spiegel. In this link, Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is welcomed to the United Kingdom by the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. By all accounts, they're very good mates. British firms hope to benefit from Saudi Crown Prince visit is a short video from Channel 4 News. And obviously tremendous fanfare, very big spend going on. UK needs to pivot more closely towards Saudi Arabia post-Brexit. And of course, not to forget that in the background is Jared Kushner, who last week I wrote, that was in November 2017, coached MBS until the early hours of the morning, the night before the night of the long knives. President Moon and President Kim of North Korea to hold a summit at the border next month. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly agreed to hold a summit meeting with South Korea's President Moon Jae-in next month and impose a moratorium on nuclear and missile tests if Pyongyang holds talks with the US. Yo-jong, South Korea's Presidential National Security Director, said the third ever summit between the two Koreas would take place in late April at the Joint Security Area in the Panmunjom border village at the demilitarized zone. The Seoul official also said that Kim and Moon have agreed to set up a hotline to reduce military tensions and plan to speak together before their April summit. So we've had a huge turnaround. It was signalled by Kim Jong-un's sister visiting Seoul and Pyeongchang, and we've seen a definite change and mood swing in this whole matter. President Moon Jae-in, otherwise known as Moon River, walks with Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong and North Korea's nominal head of state Kim Yong-nam. This photograph was taken by Yonhap in February. Choi estimates that North Korea's foreign currency reserves are only about $4 billion to $5 billion compared with the South's $395 billion. When you see it in that context, you realize how these economies are substantially different, substantively different. I wrote that piece last weekend, Xi Jinping President for Life. And then I saw that the foreign minister, Chinese foreign minister, was interviewed today at the Two Sessions event, and he said the Chinese dragon and Indian elephant must not fight but should dance together, says Wang Yi. But I think Xi Jinping has made a pygmy of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has him surrounded on all sides. Examining the debt implications of the Belt and Road Initiative from a policy perspective, this is from the Center for Global Development, well worth reading. China's Belt and Road Initiative hopes to deliver trillions of dollars in infrastructure financing to Asia, Europe, and Africa. If the initiative follows Chinese practices to date for infrastructure financing, often entail lending to sovereign borrowers, then BRI raises the risk of debt distress in some borrower countries. And then they've identified those countries, they're saying leaves the following 23 countries: Cambodia, Mongolia, Laos, these are countries at risk, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Kyrgyzstan, Maldives, which has become a major geopolitical hotspot, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Tajikistan, Djibouti, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iraq, Jordan, Kenya and Lebanon, Albania, Armenia, Belarus, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro and Ukraine. And essentially it's very interesting. And then they're talking about examples in which China has managed its claims. In 2011, China reportedly agreed to write off an unknown amount of debt owed by Tajikistan in exchange for 1,158 square kilometers of disputed territory. Of course, they took the Hambantota port when Sri Lanka was unwilling to service an $8 billion loan at 6%, and a debt for equity swap accompanied by a 99-year lease for managing the port. I don't think, that they are naive. They are quite hard-headed in many of these transactions. And, a lot of them, these infrastructure investments are very long-term and are negative in the first few years, which compounds the pressure that the additional debt is putting on these countries. August 2017, I said Xi Jinping's One Belt, One Road program binds the world to Beijing because all the roads and railways have but one destination, and that is China. Breaking peanut butter, orange juice, bourbon on anti-Trump tariff list. This is the EU trying to hit him. Orange juice is Florida. Bourbon is places like Kentucky. So you can see what the EU is doing, playing quite a granular game. The 10-year US Treasury yield and dollar-yen have decoupled. It's no longer the same trade it was for a very long time. Factoid from US trade data today, the deficit has now widened for 5 months in a row, something not seen since 1999 to 2000. Jamie at Reuters. All right, so lots of people have been talking about the US trade deficit with China. That's David Inglis. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 124.01, dollar index 89.58, Japanese yen 105.95, Swiss franc 0.9432, the pound 138.89, the Australian dollar 0.7822, India rupee 64.935, South Korean won 1068.10, Brazilian real 324.44, Egyptian pound 17.6330, and the South African rand 1184.29. Dollar index, this is a 3-month chart. Trump has effectively capped the dollar for now. But I tend to think, you want to get long close to 88. Euro dollar, we've got Super Mario up today, but this chart shows you 124 trading, 125.60 is capped at 3 times. FANGs continue to break out and lead higher. Look at this chart. Ripple develops a blockchain payments app with 61 Japanese banks. Farouk Siddiqui, who I interviewed earlier in the week of Standard Chartered, was talking me through that off camera. And Standard Chartered have made a significant move in that regard. At the beginning of January, I said my trade was to be long at Ripple, short at Bitcoin. If you take it from that date, Ripple has underperformed, but I also added this proviso. For 2018, the portfolio will look to be short Bitcoin on a tactical basis. Against that Bitcoin short, I will hold a small long in Ripple, which is another cryptocurrency which looks like it might become a serious payments platform. And then we learned that these Japanese banks are testing it, and I think that's exactly what I was expecting. Oops, risks tanks, Bitcoin tumbles below 10,000, regulatory concerns. Commodities year-to-date market performance, that's from Chi Girl, who's in Canada. Look at soybeans. Gold, last trading at 13.28. Crude oil, last trading at $61.10. That's been subdued as well. I like this photograph from Info Luxo. It's of Brazil. And that's by Mario Mendez. Moody's has downgraded Turkey's sovereign ratings to Ba2 from Ba1. Russia and Lavrov and Tillerson are crisscrossing the continent at the moment. Lavrov was in Mozambique. He's talking of boosting military cooperation with Mozambique after attacks. We have common positions with our Mozambican partners that a global priority is to create a front in the fight against terrorism, Lavrov said. The terrorist threat continues despite the efforts many countries make. Recalibration or power consolidation of African ruling parties. This is Africa at LSE. It is evident that ruling parties are grappling with emergent strong oppositions and changing political climates within the parties, resulting in their recalibration in order to consolidate power. They're talking about ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe, about Angola's ruling party, Mozambique, South Africa. We've had a change in all of those. And what I was saying is, and I'll use the Zimbabwe example, I said the genie is out of the bottle. Pictures from Harare on Saturday spoke to a people power, which is a genie which will be difficult, if not impossible, to put back in its bottle. It's like Christmas, said one marcher. He had a warning for whoever takes over Zimbabwe, and this is the point. If the next leader does the same, we're going to come out again. Therefore, you really need to change. I think that applies not only to Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe, but to all of these new leaders. In November 2014, I said what's clear is that a very young, very informed, very connected African youth demographic is set to alter the existing equilibrium between the rulers and subjects, and a rebalancing has begun, and I think that's what we're seeing as well. DRC and Angola have been once more connected by train. President Joseph Kabila is raising taxes on mining companies to fund a war chest that could be used to buy more political time, says Africa Confidential. Kabila's battle with Western mining companies could see them forced out and replaced by Chinese firms. Africa Confidential again. Kabila's battle with Western mining companies could see them forced out and replaced by Chinese firms that would put 70% of the world's cobalt production, a key component of modern batteries, out of the reach of Western companies. And that's why I think if he did that, it would signal his imminent and immediate demise. A little bit like Saddam Hussein with his move to change to the euro, Colonel Gaddafi and his Libyan dinar. Senegal attracted almost $10 billion in Eurobond bids for a $2.2 billion Eurobond on Tuesday. Senegal sold €1 billion with an average life of 9 years, interest rate 4.75%, and $1 billion of 29-year US dollar denominated bonds for 6.75%. Markets' reaction showed investors had great confidence in President Macky Sall. High demand was no surprise because Senegal is a good and improving credit. And it is. There's a continuum. Senegal is on the, it's a tighter spread to US treasuries than others. Africa's Eurobond love fest set to continue as issuers line up. That's Paul Wallace. Tuesday, Senegal became the continent's fourth sovereign in succession to attract $10 billion or more of orders when it sold $2.2 billion of euro and dollar denominated securities. African sovereigns have now sold $10.7 billion of Eurobonds in 2018, already more than half the record $18 billion they managed last year, and are exceeding the total for the whole of 2016. They're becoming bolder. Nigeria, Kenya, Senegal have all issued 30-year tranches for the first time. For now, Africa has the attraction of high yields. Investors still crave its debt for the simple reason that it offers the highest rates in the world for sovereign Eurobonds. Strong demand is good news for several countries thinking of tapping the market. South Africa plans to sell $3 billion of external debt. They're meeting US and UK investors next week. Ghana may attempt a $2 billion transaction. Ivory Coast is said to have mandated banks for a euro-denominated bond. And Angola is mulling a $2 billion Eurobond. Tanzania also got a first credit rating last week of B1 from Moody's, one level above Kenya and Nigeria, which may be a precursor to a debut Eurobond. 5th of February, I wrote about Allison Days, and it is indeed Allison Days for African Eurobond issuers. From Latin, Alcyone, daughter of Aeolus and the wife of Ceps. When her husband died in a shipwreck, Alcyone threw herself into the sea, whereupon the gods transformed them both into Halcyon birds, kingfishers. When Alcyone made her nest on the beach, waves threatened to destroy it. Aeolus restrained his winds and kept them calm during 7 days in each year, so she could lay her eggs. These became known as the Halcyon days, when storms do not occur. Today the term is used to denote a past period that is being remembered for being happy and or successful. On Wednesday, parliamentary committees were left waiting as both Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba and former SAA Board Chair Dudu Mieni did not attend scheduled meetings to answer questions. South African all shares minus 0.91% so far this year. Dollar versus rand, I'm bullish about that. We got close to 12, or back at 11.84. Egyptian pound is at 17.633. Nigerian all shares up 12.31% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up 27.44% this year and is an outlier. Kenya commits to slashing budget deficit, changing rate controls, as in the Financial Times. Kenya is committed to slashing its budget deficit, substantially modifying controversial interest rate controls to secure a 6-month extension of a frozen $1.5 billion standby facility with the IMF, the lender announced. Nairobi agreed to significantly cut its budget deficit, the fund said, adding that an appropriate reduction would be from 8.8% in the financial year that ended in June 2017 to 7.2% this year and 5.7% by the end of June 2019. The government also agreed to substantially modifying interest controls that President Kenyatta approved in September 2016. Kenya's economic growth is expected to have fallen to about 4.8% in 2017, the fund said, from 5.8% in 2016, on account of the controls, the political crisis, and a prolonged drought. Growth could rebound to 5.5% this year and 6.5% within a couple of years, provided that the authorities continue economic reforms, including reducing the fiscal deficit and amending interest rate controls. If you're interested in seeing that full press release, that's also on Rich Wrap-Ups. The authorities have requested a 6-month extension of the SBA that expires on March 13, 2018, to allow more time to complete the outstanding reviews of the IMF-supported program. To that end, the IMF team and the authorities agreed that a reduction in the fiscal deficit to 7.2% in 2017-2018 and further to 5.7% in 2018-2019 from 8.8% in 2016-2017 would be appropriate. And read that in full if you're keen to do that. Henry Rotich, the Cabinet Secretary, is talking about cutting expenditure. If we have to slow down some development expenditure, so be it. Something must give, and what is natural here is cutting expenditure. February 22nd, I said to John Anglingby in the Financial Times, he's got to slash a few things, and so far I've never seen him wield a knife. He's wielding that knife now, and he had to, because it's either him or it's going to be the markets. French companies plan to invest more than $10 billion in 12 Kenyan projects, President Kenyatta says. KCB Group reported full-year earnings per share was 6 shillings and 43 cents, unchanged on the previous year. Government securities available for sale expanded 8.628% to 63.5 billion. That's underperformed the trend line amongst the banks, I'm sure. Loans and advances to customers net, that expanded 9.576%. That's probably ahead of the average. Total assets up 8.64%, 646.66 billion shillings. Then FX trading income, that was down sharply, 15.075%. Other fees and commissions surged 50% to 9.099 billion. And my thinking is that they plonked arrangement fees on most of their loan agreements, and that's why you've seen that big surge. Staff costs, that increased by 8%. Profit before tax was up 0.07%. Profit after tax up down minus 0.08%. EPS unchanged. Dividend payout unchanged. 3 shillings a share. Very generous 2 shilling final dividend. That'll keep the share juiced up. Total NPLs up 18.99%. And just a few other points. Here's an overview of the key financial ratios in 2017. That was taken from the KCB Twitter feed. The board has recommended a dividend of 2 shillings per share, subject to approval at the AGM. By December 2017, KCB had over 13 million mobile customers and disbursed over 30 billion shillings in loans through the platform. The dividend, my conclusions are, is going to keep investors juiced up. On a price-earnings ratio, it looks inexpensive. Fees and commissions at plus 50% was a standout. Increasing their loan book was also interesting. It's a very strong franchise. It's a cheap share. It's headed over 50. Britam is to lay off 100 in cost cutting. Safaricom is up 10.28% so far this year. I got into a debate. Mia Thakkar said to me both Airtel and Safaricom had the same opportunities for growth from the very beginning. And then Airtel was then known as Kensel, did not capitalize on those opportunities the same way Safaricom did. I responded by saying, in fact, Mia, Kensel never believed in the mass market. I recall Michael Joseph and his 5-shilling scratch card, which was breakthrough thinking. It was that kind of thinking consistently over nearly 2 decades that put Safaricom where it is today. So-called leveling the playing field is reverse Darwinism. We are keeping failure alive and penalizing success. Just look around and you will see many zombies. And I call it voodoo economics. When Collymore decided to actually raise prices amid a bloody price war, raising quality like the mast of a sailing ship on its maiden voyage, that's Mia. He's also saying the Mamamboga, the vegetable lady strategy, was unconventional at that time. However, even M-Pesa in itself raised itself on that basis, while also raising hundreds of thousands of people out of poverty. I responded by saying they did 2 things right. They bet big on the information superhighway and the information century, and they bet big on each individual Kenyan, that by giving them access to that superhighway, Kenyans would make money off that, and that's been proven. That was the bet. And through thick and thin, through big macro data ups and downs, they kept doubling down on that bet. That was the big game changer, as Bob Collymore cleverly anticipated the collapse of the price war strategy as well. So that's my thinking. Equity Bank rallied 2.139% yesterday, closed at a fresh 29-month high of 47.75. Barclays up 16.6% year to date. Check the share price data, full year results. Nairobi all shares up 6.4% year to date and at an all-time high. Kenol Kobel has surged 19.285% this year and on heavy duty volume action. NSE 20 is up 0.78% year to date. BAT fell 1.31% yesterday, and that's down 11.315% year to date, bucking the wider market. Once again, thank you for stopping by.